All right. I think we're live. Just give me a one in the chat if you can hear me. All right, got a confirmation. Thanks for the confirmation. I just wanted to do this quick update real quick. Got an email from one of these subscribers that sought out mentorship about a month or so ago, back in 2019. And he just sent me an email in regards to his recent job landing. And based on the conversations we had, based on the his resume, how we updated it, his the certifications I told him to go and pursue. He now works for Microsoft. So I'm ecstatic about this sort of news because he wasn't able to get on the live stream, but he was able to send the email out and let me know, his progress. And now he works at Microsoft based on the conversations we had, the live streams we've done, certifications I've told him to go out there and get, the mentorship, the advocacy. He's now working for Microsoft today, as of now. So this is the sort of results that we seek out from these live streams. We know we're not doing these live streams for nothing. We're actually, seeking progress. This is truly SYSBM. This is truly progressive work that we try to seek out to do on a regular basis, and why we constantly, push for a lot of these things. So I just wanted to make this update for people who may not understand what it is that we do here and why we do the things that we do. Hey, what's going on, Geek Surgery? What's going on, Sherrod Martin? Excalibur, what's going on? Space Cowboy, what's going on? Yeah, so congratulations to him. I think that's excellent news. I'm really ecstatic about that. I'd love to hear him on the panel one of these days, maybe in a few weeks or so. But based on his progress, because that's actually really powerful to get a role like that. Really powerful. He works in business intelligence, so keep that in mind. Because the last stream that we just had was actually based on database administration and BI, business intelligence and data science. Actually, let me pull up this one article. I want to make sure we don't miss it. All right. All right, this is one article that just actually came into my inbox a few minutes ago, but this is from Towards Data Science. We actually covered this site on the last live stream, but let me go over this again. How I went from zero coding skills to data scientist in 6 months. The 4 tools I used to teach myself data science without spending a dollar. I had just walked away from 8 years of study and hard work with no plan. You might be wondering why someone would do that. My boss was crushing my spirit and knew that I needed to make a change. So this is actually behind a paywall. Let me see if I can actually get into this. I definitely don't want to miss out on this. Okay, let me pull this back up. All right, my boyfriend suggested becoming a data scientist. I said, you're crazy. I didn't know the first thing about programming. Surely he was overestimating what I was capable of. Imposter syndrome strikes again. Expand this out. About 2 weeks later, my friend Anna suggested the exact same thing. I thought about it for some more and began to entertain the idea. Why not? I decided to become a beginner again and reinvent myself as a data scientist. I wanted to learn at my own pace, so I decided to take online courses. I figured that with a PhD in neuroscience, I probably had enough formal training to get a data science job. I just needed practical skills. The story will describe the 4 different courses that I took and how they led to a data science job at a healthcare startup in Silicon Valley. At the time, most of the online courses I came across were free, so I challenged myself to gain the skills I needed without spending any money. What can I say? I'm pretty stingy. When I quit my job post-doc at UCSF, I had 0 programming experience. I had used statistics throughout all my research, but only on a small scale. All the data sets I previously analyzed were ones I had generated myself in the lab. Therefore, the number of observations were very small. I needed to learn to code and analyze data on a much larger scale. Getting started coding. When I decided I wanted to become a data scientist, the first thing I wanted to learn was how to write computer code. Since I had never coded before, it was a complete unknown. I figured that if I really hated writing code, then data science would not be a great fit for me. So it seemed like a good place to start. I was lucky that my partner Ben has been worked in many areas of tech and was able to point me in the right direction. He suggested that Python might suit me best. Python is excellent for data analysis, versatile, and deals well with large data sets. So that is where I begin. Code Academy. To begin learning to code, I use Code Academy. I started with with Introduction to Python, but I'm not sure if the course I completed still exists as it was back in 2014. If I was to use Code Academy to start programming now, I would probably choose the Analyze Data with Python course. I found Code Academy an excellent starting point. The main advantage for me was to be able to write code right in my browser. Installing programming environments on my computer correctly is still my Achilles heel. So I was pleased to avoid it when starting off. It was comforting to know that if my code didn't work, it was because of the syntax and not because of environment setup error. I also like how you could do a few minutes of work at a time with Code Academy. If I had some spare time, I would log in and do a few problems because it was all there waiting for me. The piecemeal progression meant that I was not too intimidated to get stuck in it. At the time that I completed the course, there was only a handful of Code Academy courses on offer, and this one was free. So I was amazed at the quality of free courses available online. Once I had learned the basics of Python, I needed to start to level up my stats experience and learn to analyze data on a large scale. Coursera Data Science Specialization from Johns Hopkins University. Second, I took the Coursera Data Science Specialization from Johns Hopkins. At the time, you could do an honor code certificate version for free and only had to pay if you wanted to verify a certificate. For me, the verified certificate did not seem important. Instead, I needed to be able to demonstrate the skills taught in the course during tech interviews. So I took the free version of the specialization. One drawback for me was that this series of courses is taught in R. R is an excellent programming language for statistical analysis and is favored by academia. However, I wanted to learn Python for data science. I thought Python would be more useful in the startups where I wanted to work. I looked into a few data analysis courses in Python, but they seemed to assume quite a bit of knowledge that I did not yet have. I believe most of these courses were aimed at software engineers who were waiting to transition into data science. So they assumed that you had solid programming skills and already knew how to set up your Python environment. The main aspect that I liked about Coursera data science specialization is that it started from the very beginning. There were step-by-step instructions on how to install R and RStudio in the first course. This made it easy to tackle the subsequent courses knowing that there would not be any technical issues. Another facet of the Johns Hopkins data science specialization that suited me is that it was taught by the public health department. Dr. Phoenix talked about this in the past. My health science domain expertise made it easy for me to follow the examples that they set out. They had examples using air quality impacts on asthma and other data sets related to healthcare. Therefore, I could focus on the course content rather than figuring out the scenarios presented for data analysis. The series of courses really set me up well with a base level understanding in the main aspects of data science work. It touched on programming in R, basic data cleaning, analysis, regression, and machine learning. I really enjoyed learning to code, how to use code to analyze data. So that encouraged me to continue learning. At this stage of my retraining, I started asking people in my network if they could introduce me to other people who had made the transition from academia to data science in San Francisco. If you were able to connect me, so I set up as many information over interviews as I could. A friend introduced me to data scientists from ModCloth who had taken a similar pathway to me. She used to be a neuroscientist, and I found her advice particularly helpful. Her recommendation was to learn SQL. We talked about this in the last stream, SQL. DB5 SQL, Stanford Online. SQL was not covered at all in the Coursera data science specialization from Johns Hopkins. She said that most of her day-to-day work was querying databases. She had to extract insights for the business development and marketing teams. Only a small portion of her time was spent doing statistical analysis and machine learning, a small amount. I took her advice and started a self-paced SQL course with Stanford Online. Of all the courses that I did, this was my favorite. I enjoyed it because the teacher was excellent and used simple examples to explain the concepts. She also explained each concept in multiple different ways. I have since recommended this course to so many people because I think that a good foundation in SQL is essential for any data scientist. Data science courses I have come across do not cover how to get the data from a database using SQL. I think this is a huge oversight. Most courses have a CSV of data prepared for the student to use, but in my experience, that is rarely the case in industry data science jobs. Once I had completed the Stanford SQL course, I started applying for data science positions. By that stage, I was living back in Australia and started doing Skype interviews with startups in the San Francisco Bay Area. While I was interviewing, I wanted to continue developing my skills. Number 4, EDX Foundations of Data Analysis. I then took the Foundations of Data Analysis course using R by EDX. It was so helpful to revise a lot of the concepts that I had already learned in the Coursera courseware. I'm a firm believer that learning concepts from different teachers can provide new insights. It was much easier to follow the statistics and machine learning concepts, learning them the second time around. I felt like I got a deeper understanding through this course. While I was finishing off the course, I was successful in one of my interviews with Amino, a healthcare startup in San Francisco, and proceeded to get a working visa and move to the US. I think I was successful in that final interview because I had passable coding skills and a decent statistical understanding, but more importantly, I had healthcare domain knowledge, experimental design, and scientific method expertise. In my opinion, it was these additional aspects that put my application over the top and led this startup to take a chance on me. I was very junior and required a lot more on-the-job training. I think that all the courses I did were just enough to get the hiring team to consider me, and that my experience specific to the healthcare space got me over the line. So if you are looking to change career paths into data science, I would recommend looking for a company where your existing domain knowledge is valuable. The major gap in my knowledge that I wish I had filled before commencing my data science job was using Git from the command line. I had never used the terminal or command line before, and I had no idea how to use Git to commit my code to the company's GitHub repository. It took several engineers quite a bit of time to get me up to speed. I would have liked to have at least have an idea of how to use it before I started, so that I would not have wasted their valuable time. My colleagues were awesome, and I didn't seem to mind teaching. They didn't seem to mind teaching me, but I did feel like a bit of a burden in the first few days. I did eventually catch up and found learn code the hard way command line extremely useful. Interesting. If you're thinking of following a similar pathway into data science, I would encourage you to go for it. It was absolutely the right choice for me. Different people learn in different ways. This is very true. But if you have the self-discipline to study and complete what you start, it is certainly feasible to teach yourself data science through online courses. If that is your goal, I wish you the best of luck and would be happy to answer any questions if I can. So we just got finished talking about this, and everything that she's saying is right on the money of what we have been talking about. So I wanted to make sure that people got an idea of examples of success, or what we consider success. Let me make sure I post this in the description beneath the video so that people can follow along after all of this. And this is the type of stuff that we do on this channel. You know, this brother, you know, who emailed me just a few minutes ago, said everything that we talked about, all the live streams, and helping him with his resume, and the certifications we pointed him to, and he now works for Microsoft. So if you guys really are serious about trying to get into IT, this is exactly the role that you're going to have to, you got to take some of these advices that we give. Listen to, what we're saying. Don't just like come here just for entertainment purposes. Anybody can get into this game. You just saw an article from a woman who has no coding experience, who learned data science through some of these online courses that we have been recommending to you guys. So I've updated the description beneath the video so that you all who are curious about what this woman, what the links are for this data science courses that this woman took, will be in the description beneath the video. I have no doubt that, I didn't ask him about his salary. I haven't even replied back to him. I just saw the email come in and I decided to go live. What I will say is I don't doubt that him working at Microsoft, he's making anything less than 6 figures. I don't doubt it. Not the first time I've heard people come back and email and actually have articles written about them that they, because they were subscribed to the Black Brain Trust, they came out, they came out on top. So it's up to you guys on who, for those of you trying to get into IT, what steps you take and how aggressive you want to go at this. There's a million IT jobs out there right now. Nagona has probably about 24 on the table. and there's not enough people to fill them. And they're capped, and the United States government is capped at 85,000 H-1B visas that can come into this country and actually work these jobs. So you got 1 million Black men who are unemployed. You do the math. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. Let me drop the link in the chat and give you all 5 minutes, man. Or if we can pop bottles over the live stream. Hey, what's going on, MOT? Hey, Dr. Phoenix, what's going on? Your mic's muted if you're trying to talk.
Boom. There we go. All right. Sorry, man. For somebody who asked a question in the chat, it was the Air Force. But Chris McDonald. So you have to understand that the information age isn't going to be something you're going to be able to BS your way through.
Mm-hmm.
You have to understand that everybody who's selling all these intentions online, they're going to quickly get swallowed up by not actually producing stuff, man. Because at the end of the day, people talk about reparations and all this other talk, and you have to realize that all you have to do is go state to state and Google jobs not filled or the jobs that need to be filled. You're going to see the same thing. Transportation and IT, every single state.
Mm-hmm.
Nursing, transportation, and IT, every single state.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to understand, man, that you're going to have to be grown up and separate from these things and actually go out there and get some of this stuff done, man, because it's not going to get any easier than it is now. If my grandfather or my father was alive, you could go on an application and actually get a load rather than trying to build contacts within a company.
Mm-hmm.
Unheard of. But all these people are saying that, the jobs are leaving, the 700 people out of a job. I'm like, it's 700 employees out of a job.
Mm-hmm.
It's not 700 people who are business minded and who got a future that's out of a job, man. It's just that this stuff now is easier than it has been. And it's really erased the excuse of racism now. It's all about producing now.
Yeah, I mean, you can't just use swag boy. I mean, you can't just use swag and BS your way through this, man. You know, I remember talking to this brother back in December, man, and we went over the resume and whatnot, and I hadn't heard back from him. Then I heard back from him today. It's like, hey, just landed a role with Microsoft. Really? And these guys come into these to these live streams, they like to shuck and jive and BS. And it's like, don't just come here for entertainment, man. You got to leverage a lot of the stuff that we're putting out here as an information resource, man. You just had an article from a woman who never coded before. She had a PhD in neuroscience, and she might be privileged in one area, but she had never coded before. She taught herself. you can't BS your way around with this, man. Like you said, MOT, you can't BS your way around with that. So, guys gonna have to start putting in a lot more work, man. You got to put in at least 90 minutes a day reading and studying.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't understand, man. Like now, you can get 2 and 3 days worth of work done now.
Mhm.
You can finish this stuff on the go now.
Mhm.
Like a large part of this thing is really time management, man.
Yeah. Listen,
Personal responsibility and time management. Like people just don't want to. They really think that they're missing out by keeping these losers around, man. You're not. When I talk about topics, it's for brothers to get something out of it.
right.
Like this is what they're talking about. They're not changing. So when you try to base your future on something that's stagnant and is not changing,
Mhm.
you're at a loss.
Mhm. This is the core principles of SYSBM. A lot of people want to down it, but this is the core principles of it, man.
I mean, they want to down it because they can't control it. They
Mhm.
can't control the outcome of what comes of it. This is why those people are mad as hell because they thought that they were going to benefit off somebody's hard work. But if people move away from the concept that actually keeps them afloat, then they're screwed.
We have a perfect opportunity right now to really dominate the IT industry, to really dominate healthcare. Um, and I see a lot of people just not making good use of their time. Had I not been doing the live stream today, I probably would have been studying. I probably would have been doing some what do you call it? On-demand content. I would have been consuming some on-demand content. For the next certification.
Yeah. So but people don't understand, like, even when I'm online, I'm still listening to a book on tape and still taking notes while I'm waiting for my time to talk. Right now, I'm installing an alternator in one truck and a starter in the other.
Mhm.
Just came in to get some water, and I'm about to be out there doing that while listening and talking to y'all. So there's a ton of stuff that you can do, man. It's just that a lot of people,
Mhm.
for some reason, they don't think that it's worthwhile to have a future without these people. And I'm telling you that they're wrong.
Right, and that's what frustrates me a lot of black men, man. They're not. I don't see the passion. I don't see the hunger, man. There's so many opportunities out there. And it's like, wait, what are you doing, man? Dude,
Yo,
what's going on? Talk to Phoenix.
yeah, congratulations to the brother. That's what's up right there.
Mhm.
You know, in line with what you and MOT are saying, like, you know, I've been preaching this, man, since I started coming on you brothers' panels. I mean, healthcare is so wide open right now. I was just having a conversation with my mentor a couple days ago, and
Mhm.
we were talking about the field of genetics. and and we were discussing like basically how genetics is like the field, the industry behind it is just so wide open. I mean, you have just such a lack of talented and folks who have the background in genetics that are going into biotech, going into these startups. In line with what the article you was reading about the woman that had the PhD in neuroscience, she said what carried over the top was her healthcare background. And I've been saying this for the longest time to brothers. If you want to get in healthcare, the easiest way to get into it is just go to nursing school. It's not the easiest way per se, but you need to go to the BS. You need to go to a 4-year school and get a BSN. I'm not talking about no damn ADN or no LPN, no offense to any folks out there. I'm talking about brothers out here getting into these BSN programs, and from there, you can parlay that into any number of careers. I know nurses that are engineers, man, and they're not only are they faculty and scientists and researchers, but these folks are doing consulting with startups, with engineering firms. You know, from I know I know nurses that are genetics, and the reason I focus on nursing and not medicine, given my background, is because the route, the pathway to medicine, to medical school is always going to be the same. It's never going to change.
Mhm.
Nursing, because it is at least the entry level. Now, get into that doctoral level is a different story, but the entry level is a bit easier to get into. But again, that requires performance, and that requires brothers to be focused and to concentrate on doing well in those basic science courses. So therefore, you can qualify for. Therefore, when it's time for you to apply to these BSN programs, you're going to be in the running, because all these programs require students. I don't care what they tell you on their website, they're accepting students with no less than 3.5s, 3.6 GPAs. And so that requires a level of investment in yourself, and brothers have to be very comfortable with betting on themselves. And that's really my frustration. This goes back to that hangout we did, about a month or so ago. And I just kind of, you and I just kind of laid out like healthcare, nursing, and just kind of the numbers. There's a major conference happening this year at Duke University with nursing, because they have such a lack of folks getting getting PhDs, that they need more scientists and more faculty, and they're just offering all kinds of incentives for you to get into these programs. And again, this comes down to whether brothers really want to make a real move to be, as I've heard some brothers call it, the masters of the universe type brothers.
Yep, 100 octane.
Yeah, if you go be these kind of brothers, these are the spaces you have to move in. You have to get very comfortable with being performance oriented and being focused on what a goal is. These careers that you're highlighting, these are not easy careers to get into. Don't be fooled by the articles you hear of people doing career changing. These folks have a experiences. To get a PhD in neuroscience is at least 5 to 6 years. It's longer than medical school. You look at PhDs in something like genetics, depending on where you go, it can be between 4 to 6 years. I know a couple folks out there that have done it, but what I'm saying is that these folks have backgrounds that they're able to leverage and able to parlay into other incentives. And the fact that this person went over to a startup in Silicon Valley, let's put this in perspective. When Instagram was brought out by Facebook a few years ago, it was only about I think it was about maybe 7 or 8 employees or something like that. It was very small, very, very small number of employees that constituted Instagram. And so when you're able to get that skill set and you can go over to a startup like that, what do you think they're offering you? Not just necessarily a great salary, but they're offering you equity in these companies and these startups, because it's designed to keep you there. Mm-hmm. It's designed to get you to one, to stay there, be loyal to the company, but also to also understand that this is performance. This is based on what the value you bring to a company.
Yeah.
And so a lot of brothers have to be, in my grand frustration in this space, and part of the reason why I'm not really around, not just the school thing like that, is because I've kind of gotten really frustrated with a lot of brothers thinking that bare minimum is going to cut it in the 21st century, when just earlier today, I was reading an article that, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but New Jersey just passed a state law where state schools are now offering tuition assistance to H-1B visa, so they can get financial assistance for school.
Wow.
H-1B. Yeah. If you Google this, I was just reading this article. I think it was in the Washington Post this morning.
Based on the fact that other people are not taking advantage of those opportunities. So they have to open it up to somebody, because they got that money earmarked for people to use. And they'll rather give it to somebody who's going to bring value and tax revenue to their state. Again, this is why I like the East Coast, I like the West Coast, I like the Pacific Northwest, and this is where the South is really dropping the ball. It's on investing in people. If you invest in people, you can have companies that want to come there and stay there. But people don't understand how much free education can actually help the tax revenue problem within their own state. Mm-hmm. They don't get that the initial investment always come back in tax revenue over time.
It's interesting that Dr. Phoenix brought something up. You said, you know, brothers got to get used to being performance oriented. The Black culture, for whatever reason, has rejected this sort of notion, and you can see it in the relationships and whatnot that happens, you know, in these social spaces where, you know, people are putting up, strategies of how to get dysfunctional people in relationships. You know, no one really cares about performance metrics anymore. It's all about how rigmarole and how to slink your way to the next opportunity. With another person. And it's like, if that's how you think in your everyday transition, dealing with people, man, then I can't see how a career is, a career that's based on performance variations is going to be well suited for you. You are going to lose out in the next 10 years. I've been telling people this for years, on this channel, the last couple of years, and on other spaces, that this is it. This is the last go around. If you can't perform on any of these new frontiers, it's game over. I mean, yeah, you might be relegated to driving around in mall security or something like that. Plaza mall security or budget rent a car, parking vehicles and stuff, man. But that's not the goal, man. That's not the goal. It's not the business. We got AV on the panel, man. Congratulations, brother.
Oh, thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Salute to everybody in the
congratulations.
in the chat. Thank you. I appreciate that. I want to really say I appreciate everybody on the Black Brain Trust for continuing to impart all this information. Because like I said, I finally took some action. I was on last week. I had told y'all that I had passed the Tableau certification earlier, about 2 weeks ago now. But as far as, I wouldn't have never thought that within I guess a little over a month that I would be going from trying to get a job to working at Microsoft. So
it's excellent information. It is the best information I've heard all day. Maybe for the weekend. The weekend's not over yet, man. Somebody else may come up and say, "Oh, I just got a job at Cisco." I don't know if anybody's going to top Microsoft, but this is actually dope news, man. I love hearing these sort of emails come back every month or so. When I see these progress updates, when people come back. We covered some brothers last year who took EDX courses and stuff like that, and then they ended up landing these nice jobs as solution architects and database developers and stuff like that. I'm like, man, I need to take my own advice, man. I have to, get one of these jobs you guys got, man. But definitely dope stuff on your behalf, man. How many interviews did you have to go through?
Well, actually, I had to go through about 2, because that's what was interesting about it. When I was in the interview process, I had my final one yesterday. So it just happened. And they were telling me how pretty much what you were talking about in the earlier video today, how some of them be going through multiple, they said for Microsoft, they go through 10 interviews back and forth with super advanced, technical skills, and then the personality-based questions that they would ask back and forth like that. But apparently they really like that I fit into the culture more so, because I'm not going to sit here and flex and act like I just, blew the interview process out the water, because they were some technical questions that I could not answer. And I was just straight up with them. I let them know. But I think overall, they like that I had experience in different areas. Like I said before, as far as real estate and trading and stuff like that, I'm into as well. They sell that as valuable, and they want to bring me on the team because of that. At least one reason why, for sure.
Yes, this is why I tell people, leverage your background, man. If you got a military background, leverage that, stretch that thing out. Make sure those bullet points are there about your work in the military. I don't care if you're in service.
I do that on my resume, man. It is front and center. On my resume, my CV, all of that is front and center, man. It is, I can't stress the importance of, how important this is that this brother is talking about, him landing this job, or I should say his future career at Microsoft. Because I've talked about before, healthcare, it's not even just the military thing, but healthcare is one of the strongest backgrounds you can have right now. It really is. In this current environment, having a background in healthcare or anything related is a very strong background, especially when you're looking at companies like Microsoft. I talked about this a few times before. They got a chief nursing officer who is working with them with AI, with artificial intelligence to embed into EMRs.
Yep.
I mean, she just spoke at the South by Southwest, excuse me, earlier last year. I mean, this is what's going on out here, and I cannot sit here and all, I just don't get it, much props to the brother, this is, it's impressive. It really is. And I think it kind of really highlights sort of kind of a lot of the criticisms too that, that have been levied against you brothers now, because you all have repeatedly shown that you've been able to produce brothers that have been able to get to some top tier Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies, which makes a huge difference.
Yeah, definitely. Even the startup sector, getting into startup is going to be huge. But just based off of what AV just said, about his background, leveraging his background, that real estate background, and other facets of his background.
Because he has business acumen, he can make a sale.
Exactly.
He can close the deal, and that's so important. You might not think, oh, what the hell does real estate have to do with, IT or data science? Has a lot to do with it. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of these skills you pick up in these various professions and these various industries that are very translatable to just about any industry.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, this is as in the words of Nagone, this is some highly butter laid stuff. So.
Yeah.
Now, another question, AV. Are you working remote or are you going into the office?
I'll be going to the office. I don't live too far from there, so.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm only 5 minutes away from Microsoft's NERD, which is called New England Research and Development. They have a whole entire startup office in Cambridge, so I'm only about 5 minutes away from there. Okay. But yeah, Dr. Phoenix, you got any questions for him in terms of like how you got that role?
Yeah, actually, I did. I wanted to ask him, can you just explain to the brothers out there, what did you had to really do, to pass the certifications, the time you really had to invest in yourself to really get to this point?
Mm-hmm. Well, I haven't been really going out too much. I know Mike has said before, as far as like dating stuff, it's like even socializing to an extent. I've just been pretty kind of much just locking myself into studying a lot, and whether it be the trading or for these certifications like the Google database engineer one that I'm still working on. Okay. I've just been kind of just hunkered down on those. And then also, as far as getting it, I had just been blasting my resume out to a whole bunch of sites like Dice and stuff like that. And my basically a recruiter, she had found me. I had worked with her before I had got my previous role, and that's speaking to what Dr. Phoenix says. I did work in healthcare before I started the entrepreneurial stuff. But she had reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I got this role. I think you'd be a good fit for it." And I was like, "Okay, go ahead, shoot, throw it over there." And I didn't know that they would be, so quick to interview. And then they had the interview. The phone interview was on Thursday, and then the in-person interview was Friday. And then that same day, like I said, they got back to me and said, "Hey, we want to move forward with you."
Mm-hmm. I mean, that is the power of just leveraging all of your experiences you've had. When I leverage everything I got. I mean, my time doing military consulting, my time in the military, my veteran status, my time doing research, all of it. I leverage every last bit of those experiences that I have in everything I do, because it is vitally important. Because oftentimes a lot of brothers tend to sell themselves short. This is true of Black people in general, but especially brothers. Brothers tend to sell themselves short. They tend to undervalue who they really are and what they've done. And again, because in Black society that tends to happen to brothers' contributions and their accomplishments tend to be undervalued. And so that carries over into how we present ourselves in a professional manner. And so, you know, the fact that he was able to leverage all of that is proof positive that, you know, everything that, you know, the brothers Mike V and Complex and the rest of the brothers at the Black Brain Trust have been saying have been right on the money. And certainly what I've talked about in relation to healthcare. I mean, healthcare is a very powerful background to have in this current environment. I cannot stress that enough. So.
Yep. Now, if you wouldn't happen to be light skinned and get light skin privilege, right?
No, sir. No, sir. I'm on team dark skin.
The Barnes treatment.
Nah, man. When you did your interview, because you said they do about 10 interviews on a candidate, right?
Yeah, typically, but this one, I guess, was an exception. They were needing to hire somebody relatively soon.
Yeah, but in terms of what you just said though, around 10 interviews. When I interviewed with Facebook, it was 5 interviews, and these are whiteboard interviews. Like they not just you answering questions across the table. You got to go up there and demonstrate your code and everything else. It's brutal. It's really brutal, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't have to do all that. They were just asking me things like over the phone, pretty much, and then the in-person one, they didn't go too much into it. It was more little scenarios of what I would be doing and stuff like that. But yeah, like I said, it was more so just to see who they would like, because it was between me and another guy. I don't know how he did apparently, but they ended up choosing me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll say this much, because even if you go, let's just say you're in academia, you're applying to these doctoral programs, these graduate programs. They interview you. Many of them interview. And I can tell you from my experience, I've gone through processes where I've done what they call MMI, multi-mini interviews. And basically it was like all day of me just getting interviewed by folks.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's stressful. It really keeps you on your toes. But brothers have to be prepared for this is the kind of environment you want. These folks are not playing around. They want the best and the brightest. Hence why the H-1B visa program has been so damn popular. Again, you do have Donald Trump in office, and he kind of slowed it down to kind of give the mayonnaise crew a leg up or some of an advantage, but that's not going to slow them down. They're going to get the talent one way or the other. And so brothers need to figure out which side of this table they're going to be on. You going to be the cats on the table, or you going to be the cats at the table. Mm-hmm. It's really that simple. And that's what's going to happen, because these opportunities are not going to be around forever. And they sure as hell not going to be around probably in the next decade or two.
No. Let me see. What was I about to ask him? Okay, so you do have a bachelor's.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Guys got to start stepping their game up academically, man. I don't care if you go to a community college. They got most community colleges have some form of information systems program that you can be able to get into and leverage. Anything, depending on what your household income is, any program that's at a community college that's $10,000 and less is actually going to be free. So there's grants and there's Pell grants and things like that on the table, waited to be utilized for people in that area. So there's really no excuse at this point other than time as to how to go about this, man. I went to school at night and I worked in the day. So went to school from 6 to 10. I worked from 9 to 5, went to school from 6 to 10 for 4 years in a row. I did.
And that's what's up, man. That's what's up.
Yep. So, just because you didn't graduate from high school doesn't mean that you have to sit on the sidelines, man. There's vocational schools out there, trade schools and stuff like that that's still out there, man. And those schools are usually a little over 10,000. I think they're usually about 12 to 14,000. 10,000 of that is going to be taken care of by the federal government. The rest of it is just 4,000 you got to come out your pocket for, and that's where your financial aid comes in.
Yeah, I mean, I've already laid this out, numerous times before, how brothers can go about, getting degrees and without going into insurmountable levels of debt. Mm-hmm. Start at a community college. All of your community colleges have articulation agreements with your state universities. I don't care what state you're in. They all do. Do your general ed there, because if you go to a 4-year, that's what you're going to spend your first 2 years doing, general ed. You don't actually get into your major until your junior year.
Mhm.
You know, I've laid this game plan out before. It can be done. It's so damn repeatable. You know, people are doing this. I'm in a state right now, man. There's such a big venture capital. Venture capital has been bending down on the state now for the last 5-6 years now. They're just throwing so much money into startups where I'm at.
Mhm.
They're partnering with business schools, schools of engineering, schools of medicine, schools of nursing, because this is where these are where your startups are coming from.
Yep, and a lot of your labor is going to come out of those trade schools. So, I went to trade school myself before I did undergrad, and I transferred my credits because those trade schools are actually college accredited if they're actually accredited institutions. And so I was able to leverage the credits from there and actually transfer it to an undergrad, and then, take it even further. And so I had finished school a little bit earlier than I should have. And so
No, go ahead, Robert. Go ahead.
no, and so if you plan it out correctly, man, even on a whiteboard or a piece of paper, man, that could actually work. A lot of your community colleges are also partnered with state schools. And so you can actually transition from associates to bachelors in just a few days. It's just a matter of getting the transcript shipped over, and once the transcripts are shipped over, you're in.
Yeah. And that's absolutely true. I can tell you from my own personal experience. I did all of my general ed at a community college in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Did all of it there. So by the time it came time for me to consider, to go to a 4-year program, when I went to Australia, they took all of my credits, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So a bachelor's degree in Australia is only 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
It took me about 2 years almost, because I did a couple extra things. But then from there, the VA offered to send me to nursing school. And I went to nursing school. Only took me 2 years to get my BSN from there, because I already had the vast majority of prerequisites minus a couple of specific nursing prerequisites.
Mm-hmm.
And so it only took me about 2 years. And my whole time through my second undergrad, I worked my butt off. I was a scholar. I was, getting very good grades,
Mhm.
doing research. And so, it paid dividends.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to research conferences, that's how I end up getting a bunch of folks in my face.
Mm-hmm.
They're sitting here offering you, and I can't stress this enough. When you start out, if you're an academic, for any of the brothers that done undergrad, you ever done research, anything like that, and you ever go to a research conference, when folks like your research, man, you'll be amazed. You'll get deans of Big 10 universities, deans of top tier elite universities in your face, talking about what can they do for you. You're not coming to them, they're coming to you. And they're telling you what they can do for you. Before I even went down this medical school pathway, I had options for multiple Ivy League schools wanting me to do PhD. And I say that not in a bragging sense, but I say that to say that, I took a real hard investment on myself, because I know what it's like when you kind of start from nothing and you got to bust your butt to get something. And so, brothers have to be very steadfast and have to be very comfortable with just betting on yourself, because these opportunities are not going to be around forever.
No, it's not. I see somebody in the chat says, or asked a question. Says, Mike V, can you talk more about community college by the government? So if you live in a household, I don't know what the numbers are now, but I know what it was during the Obama administration. If you live in a household where the household income is below $36,000, community college and trade school, at any program that has is $10,000 and less is actually going to be free. Essentially, the result is this is going to be free because there's grants on the table and things of that nature. As long as you fill out the paperwork, then you're good. I know some black women who had a household income of less than 64,000 with 3 siblings in it, actually got master's degrees paid for, and not only that, they got their their condos were paid for. All they had to do was put down what I think was like 1 to 3%, something like that, 1.5 to 3% of the value of that property, and it was in there. So there's a lot of stuff on the table that people are sleeping on, man. There's a lot of opportunities on the table. I think brothers are missing out big time on it, man.
I was just having this conversation with a brother, and I was talking about. I got a mentee right now. I'm actually working on getting him. He's at a private 4-year college, and so they have an associated nursing school, and so I'm working on getting his letter of recommendation right now. And one of the things him and I talked about was his interests. What were his interests? And and how he can get this, and how he can get the schooling he won't paid for. I cannot stress enough, man, in the healthcare field, because there's such a lack of black men in healthcare. And I keep talking about healthcare because brothers keep avoiding it like the damn plague. But there's such a lack of black men in healthcare. They are literally throwing money at brothers. But you got black women snatching these programs up. They're getting these programs. They're walking out of here with MDs and PhDs and whatever doctorate degrees you can think of. And these programs are explicitly, targeting black men.
Yep.
But you can't find enough brothers who have the interest. And like I said, I think one of my frustrations about this space in general, man, is that a lot of brothers just, it's like brothers are just afraid of learning, stepping outside of your comfort boundaries. Just step outside of your boundaries. Embrace being a black man of the 21st century. And what is a black man of the 21st century? He's smart. He's accomplished.
Yeah.
He can walk in the room with confidence. What he's done speaks for itself.
Definitely, man. I'm just really ecstatic about AV in his first day, man. I know a couple of people work at Microsoft here locally, and they're ecstatic about every time they go in, man. They got really nice roles. The office is actually pretty dipped out for them. This Microsoft has turned their company into a startup, like a 40-year-old startup. So it's really interesting some of the things that they're doing, and I can't stress any more positive things or more about it than what's already been noted. But AV, do you have to give like a 2-week notice, anything to your current role?
Oh no, right now I'm just doing the self-employed stuff.
Okay. What else is on your agenda in terms of like certifications, continuing education? Are you going to go back? Are you going to do something else beyond the Tableau?
Like I said, I'm doing that second one that you had recommended, which was that data engineer, Google data engineer certification.
Yeah.
And then also I think one of those data science ones I was going to definitely touch on, and then maybe, they said I can move around after a certain amount of time there within the company, and that's when I'll really start trying to apply those different certifications that I received.
Yeah, see, because obviously the Google data engineer is a little bit of a posh statement to make while you're working at Microsoft. I would probably look at some of their Azure stuff. See if you have access to some of their internal stuff and learning for Azure, right? So they have Azure Business Intelligence, Azure SQL. I think we talked about this earlier in the other live stream about that. So we did point to that. And so I would definitely look at that if you plan on staying there for more than a year or to the end of the year. I would definitely look at the internal learnings for Azure, because that's going to actually help you leverage the next opportunity that pops up in there. I don't know what the stipulations are when you are there, if like you have to wait 6 months before you can actually make a transition or anything like that. I know some companies like Dell, you won't be able to move around for the first 18 months.
Okay, yeah, you were right as far as the 6 months. That's what they told me.
Yeah, that's usually how it is now. So that was a lot worse though. You're not moving anywhere for 18 months, so they make sure they keep you in that role. But, but yeah, let me answer a couple more questions. AO asked a question. He says, "What are your thoughts on Western Governors University?" WGU is actually a pretty well talked about institution for online learning. I think they do have a campus in Colorado. I'm not entirely sure, but in the cybersecurity community, that's actually a pretty well-known university or institution. And so,
they have one I think they have a campus in Chicago too, if I remember correct.
Yeah, I've never attended it, but I know people have graduated from it, and I haven't heard anything negative about it. So the only thing I can say is that, depending on what it is you're trying to enroll for, I think a lot of guys use their military background with it because they're very military friendly. And so that may be the reason why you see it, the popularity with it. I think a lot of guys go in and they come right back out of their tours, and then they go right into Western Governors. So yeah, it depends on what you're trying to get into. But if it's for cybersecurity, I don't know anything about it. I've only heard about it. I usually stick with things that are more practical for cybersecurity, like some of your D1, D2 schools, because they tend to have more rigorous programs in terms of cybersecurity. Some people, I'm not a big fan of doing a bachelor's in just cybersecurity alone. I think you have to do like a computer science with cybersecurity, or computer engineering with cybersecurity.
Yeah, as it relates to, I'm not opposed to online learning, but I think online learning works. I think an online school works best if you're maybe thinking about doing a master's or something like that. Yep. Because I think if you're trying to get a bachelor's degree, you're best served being in an institution, a 4-year institution, where you can have boots on the ground, where you can have your feet on the ground, you can walk that campus, you can interact with the professors, you can interact with other students. That's where you build up that network, brother, that will take you to the next level. That's when you meet those professors. That's when you can get those opportunities to maybe do research, to get involved in the industry. And that's what leads you to that's what takes you to those next levels. I mean, I spoke about it before. My background, I was at the University of Wisconsin, and I did research as a McNair Scholar. I've talked about this before, and how doing that one program, like, literally changed everything for me. And so, that's what's, you don't get that from an online, you don't get that in an online school, brother. Especially at an undergrad level. And it's so, and because the fact is that there are just so many folks out here with undergraduate degrees, with bachelor's degrees, you're gonna need to have a leg up on the competition. So having feet on the ground, walking the campus, being able to interact with people in your department or whatever, that's how you're gonna open up those opportunities for yourself. And that typically does not happen with an online program.
Yep. He says, I'm already at community college for IT. I work part-time in its IT department too. After, I'm holding off college until I get my next tech role. I would say, finished the community college in IT, and it depends on what your passion is. There's so many variations of IT that you can get into. I definitely would stick with the certifications to beef up, you know, the AAS that you're gonna have when you complete that. So A plus, network plus, server plus, security plus. I would definitely look at all of those things as a additionals to the accreditation that you're gonna have, leaving out of there. Let me see.
Yeah, I hope that answers this brother question. You know, um, especially you know, I agree with Mike said, because well, even in healthcare, man, what we're seeing now, we're seeing so many folks who are starting to who are coming into healthcare either with tech backgrounds or folks who are already in healthcare that are going back to get the training and to get the necessary certifications and schooling to get, you know, to get those bona fide tech backgrounds. I mean, healthcare is prime. Folks in healthcare, so folks with backgrounds in nursing or medicine, those folks are primed to be data scientists. I mean, you deal with just so much data on a daily basis that, yeah, you know the questions that you can ask. You know the questions that the data might ask, or at least may propose. So, I mean, folks, you know, so you're seeing a convergence of all these various fields: engineering, medicine, nursing, even the traditional basic sciences. So your biologists, obviously, always been the case with your physical sciences, your engineering, your certainly your life sciences. Now they've really been jumping into the mix. You know, earlier Mike talked about Python and R. Python, you know, R is very popular in academia, is also rather popular in a lot of healthcare research as well, and so is Python. You know, earlier I think was a while, maybe a few days ago, I think I heard a playback where you guys were talking about what was going on over in China or something like that with the coronavirus or something like that. I can't, it might have been, I can't remember, but understanding like how that right there, the folks that have to track these people, the movements of these people across the globe, who may be potentially carriers of the coronavirus, that's an epidemiologist. That's what they do. These are folks who are working with these programming languages. They are for all intents and purposes very much data scientists.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding that takes years of cultivating that skill set. So, you know, just wanted to throw that a little bit out there for us.
No, definitely. Got to pay attention to the news from a third dimension, second and third dimension. You know, the article that we read earlier was, you know, the woman said, you know, she got the Public Health Commission actually sponsored her.
Because there's a major, I've talked about this so many times, brother. I mean, I don't know how many times you brothers go pull between you're gonna pull up articles where they keep dropping this. Public health is really this is why you're seeing this nightmare happening over. What's happening over in China is a public health nightmare. You have no way to track 11 million people that may potentially be carriers of this coronavirus. That's not including, and that's including the ones that may have left the country, traveled to whatever country. I mean, just yesterday they had a confirmed case of coronavirus in Chicago.
Maybe they were talking about the brew, you know, sipping out the Corona with the lime in it.
Actually, it's called Corona because if you look at the cells of the, if you look at the virus underneath a microscope, it actually looks like a crown. Corona means crown in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like a crown. The virus actually looks like a crown under a microscope. That's why they call it that. But but it's important to note that, you know, the skill sets that you need to be able to treat folks who may be carriers of this virus and the subsequent symptoms that they present with, but also just being able to track it and, you know, track these people and being able to have the data that's readily available. You know, this requires data scientists to go in line with what the brother AV was saying about his role. You know, this is the job of a data scientist. These are the job of epidemiologists, which are essentially public health data scientists.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, these are skill sets that I cannot stress enough that, you know, brothers are going to have to go whole in on. You have to be wholeheartedly invested in developing these skill sets. And these are going to be the jobs that are going to be paying you 150 grand a year, 200 grand a year. These are going to be the jobs that are going to be paying you that. What MOT said was absolutely correct. People talking about, oh, folks losing jobs. Yeah, folks are losing jobs. Folks that didn't prepare for folks that didn't prepare for today.
Mm-hmm.
That's who's losing those jobs. You're not going to get by in this country in the 21st century driving around in Walmart parking lot in a security truck. It's not happening.
Nope.
And there's no way to even live your life.
Yeah, that might be cool when you're 18 to 24, man. But when you're 40 plus, man, that's not the business. And guys are gonna, you know, they're gonna figure out the hard way. You're gonna go through age discrimination, ageism. It's real. You already got racism on top of your head. You got to deal with ageism too.
Yeah, you know, the great thing about healthcare is that a lot of healthcare tends to favor people who are coming from second careers.
Yep.
So folks who are in their 30s, even their 40s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this. I mean, look, I'm seeing everything. I'm seeing folks in their 50s, man, doing this. So that lets you know there's something there's a monumental shift happening, not just in the job market, but sort of in the culture of this country, and what's going to be expected of the citizens of this country going forward into the future. And Black folks think that we're gonna get by just, you know, being the bare minimum people, doing, you know, brothers think that you just go get some basic job, pick up a trade and do basic, man. Even the trade brothers will tell you, man, they're having to tack on tons of skills and stuff like that. It's not just gonna be you wake up and do your job and you go home. No. There has to be a fundamental level of investment in what you do. Do you like what you do? Do you enjoy it? Because this is what's gonna drive your ability to create your wealth and your future. Do you like your career? Not a job, your career. Do you like the industry you're in? And that's fundamentally important, because this idea, well, you know, Black folks want to chase the bag. Chase the bag leads to short-term disappointment. It is not a short-term. It is not a plan for the long term. It is a plan for the short term, because you become so short-sighted and narrow-minded that you don't see that cultivating a skill set is really what's going to help prepare you for those $150,000, $200,000 plus type jobs in the future.
Yeah, let me go over this real quick, and I gotta close out. But this is from edx.org. They just came out with this micro bachelor's degree program for undergraduate education. It's affordable. Average cost per credit is $166 for a credit, compared to a brick and mortar institution. They are, it's all credible learning credits, and so they have computer science, information technology. You really can't beat this at all, especially if you're coming from a community college.
I mean, like I said, even your four-year institutions are having to respond to the demands of the market and the industry. Mm-hmm. And that's why you see all these programs that are popping up like this, because they're responding to the industry, what these employers are saying, what what do these startups need? The kinds of people they need. The future is gonna go to the people who are the most creative. It's just that simple.
And this is speaking of WGU. This is actually from WGU on EDX.
Yeah, WGU, I've heard actually pretty good things. I don't know if people are familiar with how it started. It's actually a consortium of governors from various states. I can't remember exactly how many, but it's actually a very good online school. They were one of the progenitors of online education, and so they actually are actually a very reputable school. I think it works. I don't recommend online schooling for a bachelor's unless you already are working and you're in a particular industry and you need that bachelor's to kind of progress in your career. But if you don't have a bachelor's and you just start out in school, you might be at a community college, something like that, you really need to think about the next step for you is to move into a 4-year school. Brothers have to stop being afraid of taking your ass to a 4-year school. Because this is where you can really build your future at. You do it right, you leverage the experience right, you can build something that will be sustainable.
All right. Thank you all for joining us. Please hit the like button if not already done so. Share the video if possible. Also hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. Hold tight, everyone.